magierim, monitores, pyramidum, osumus, flamines, osumus, marinores, osumus, magierim, monitores, pyramidum, osumus, flamines, osumus, marinores, ostaminus, valorem, et osumus, sine finem, extravalum, quansumus, divisumus, habitebum, osumus, magierim, monitores, pyramidum, osumus,
Excellent. Naughty. Surprise. But sex. But sex. But sex.
Damn it, it all reset again. That's why it's lagging. Hang on one moment. This is very frustrating. I wish it would just keep my settings whenever it updates. I don't know why it does this. There we go, that's better. There, now buttery smooth. Wearing the white cardigan today like I'm Vlad Vexler. Hello, beautiful community. He doesn't even say hello, beautiful community. Sometimes he just opens, he's like, beautiful community. And it's like, can you see me? Obviously not. On behalf of Europeans, I think you were starting early. Well, we're doing a shorter stream today because I'm going live with Ico later tonight, so it's a busy day. You think he's smart? Who, Vlad Vexler? He's fine. He's kind of dumbed down. He's fine, though. He's cozy is what he is. Really pretentious. In a way I don't like, but he's okay. I don't mind him. I generally don't like anyone who calls themselves a philosopher unless they're literally publishing in academia. I just, not because there's a rule against it, it's just it seems like philosopher is one of those words where I feel like it's something other people should ascribe to you. Because whether you're like a philosopher or a sophist or a hack or something, that's like a question of like what your underlying motives are, what you're actually about, not so much like the activity you ascribe to yourself. So like someone calling themselves a sociologist, that's fine. You're engaging in sociology. That's just a field of study. You're talking about philosophy. There's a whole lot of metaphysical and moral stuff sort of wrapped into that I'm not super keen on when people just call me. You don't like pretentious? I love pretentious. I just don't like being pretentious. I recognize the irony of all this, okay? That's the rule. If you're self-aware, you're allowed. What is this supposed secret bomb that Erudite has on you? Erudite has a bomb on me? Where's this? I want to see it. I haven't had a proper hit piece against me in my entire life. My entire time on stream, everything's fallen flat. Where is this? I'm excited. Hell, is there like a Patreon tier that I can support this project with? I would like to pay. I would like to help. God knows she needs it. I'm not sure you're aware enough of your own pretense and the level with which you operate on. I see you have a minor spelling error in that comment, Brooks. She left the bomb in Canada. I mean, it's where you'd want it to be. Grizzler, thanks for the 5 gifted memberships. Appreciate it. Yo, Perez, how much math did you go through in school? No comment. You're doing the thing? Bunch of people are going on a list tonight. You have a big Rudyard aesthetic today? I always have Rudyard aesthetic. Look at me. Like a white Irish guy with inflammatory disorders in front of a bunch of books that I keep to impress my guests, which I never have. Newfies are Irish. That's Irish. It's like Irish at home, but it's Irish. You don't have that Rudyard Riz? I'm not autistic enough, and I haven't tried ayahuasca yet. Someday, okay? Someday. I haven't killed God yet, though. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Prez, how do you keep winning so much over everyone? It's insane. I don't think I'm winning anything. I feel like I've got a tiny little audience. I live at a subsistence level, and I'm fairly happy with it. And I've dodged a lot of bullets. I think I've just been very lucky. I'm more at a subsistence level right now. We're doing pretty good. We've had a good year. Winning though, I'm a pessimist. I think all the baddies are gonna win. And the real victory is just surviving it. Does it have anything to do with not gooning with Discord kittens, Mr. President? Generally, that is good advice. Just don't. Okay, meet people in real life. Some people meet people, make meaningful relationships over Discord and Twitter and whatnot, and that's a thing that happens. So I'm not going to disparage anybody who manages to do that, but just as a general rule, especially if you're a content creator and you have a face attached to any of this, just don't. Just don't. I think it's a mistake. Sometimes mistakes are happy, but it's a mistake. Have you ever done a philosophical breakdown of Blood Meridian? I haven't even read Blood Meridian. Sorry, can't even speak. Still coming off this bloody flu or whatever it was. Yeah, Destiny's channel will survive, unfortunately. I mean, that was never in question. Even right now, there are so many people whose opinion on... here, let's put some music on. Whose opinion on Destiny, you know, having sex with people in his orbit and then leaking the videos to just random strangers on the internet to make himself seem desirable because he can't sell himself on his own charm and merits. People are like, well, his message is so important to the left or against Trump. It's like, Trump doesn't care. These people don't care. They don't care that he exists. He is, if anything, spontaneously emergent, controlled opposition. He's wonderful to rightists because insofar as they are aware of his existence, it's like, look, example number 535, if that's a Nazi number of some kind, that was incidental. Look at how all of the male feminists are actually secretly rapists. That's it. Whole lot of people angry that the infinite rape machine was stopped because of they're gonna win the election they just lost. I don't know. Not a member of the left. Oh, screw. Just who even cares about talking about the left anymore? It doesn't matter. Like, what does that even mean anymore? Liberals ain't leftists. I mean, sure, I agree. But, like, I don't know. I feel like at the point where you've got, like, true leftists at this stage, I think there is an appropriate description of the left. I just don't see the point. It's not even a matter of purity testing right now. It's like, you want a whole lot of philosophically unsophisticated people trying to point fingers at who has the correct approach to, like, really complicated, really unintuitive philosophical and structural things. Like, no, not really. Like, in the last election, I would have rather had more liberals vote against Trump than more quote-unquote leftists that didn't vote for anything. Because we've gone from tepid pressure on Netanyahu to stop bombing the bejesus out of Gazans to, hey, we're gonna build Trump Tower on Gaza. That's where we're at now. We've got, I can say we, because remember, Canada's a state now, okay? My fellow Americans. We've got Elon Musk threatening the head of the Treasury. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. This was kind of crazy to read, actually. Let's pop this. Oh, that actually worked that time. Nice. Musk associates sought to use critical Treasury payment system to shut down USAID spending, emails show. That part's not particularly interesting to me. That part makes sense. Like, I understand that intuitively. Not that I understand the mechanisms of any of this. I'm not that kind of political scientist. But This I understand, okay? Musk has been put in charge of a team that's just going around, just fucking with bureaucratic institutions. I get that. Here's the part that's weird. Because he's also been acting like a little petty tyrant despite not winning any elections and having really no legitimate authority. He's just rich. 4 days after Donald Trump's inauguration, Elon Musk's top lieutenants at the Treasury Department asked its acting secretary, a career civil servant, to immediately shut off all USAID payments using the department's own ultra-sensitive payment processing system. Okay? The ask was so out of line with how Treasury normally operates, it prompted a skeptical reply from David Lebrick, then serving as acting Treasury Secretary, who said he did not believe we have the legal authority to stop an authorized payment certified by an agency, according to a source familiar with the exchange. Lebrick suggested a legally less risky approach would be for the State Department, which oversees USAID, to rescind the payments itself and examine whether they complied with President Donald Trump's Inauguration Day executive order freezing foreign development aid. Tom Krause, a former tech executive and now the top Doge staffer at Treasury, responded that Lebrick could have legal risk himself should he choose not to comply. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but this seems like you have some psychotic billionaire with an insane ego just running around doing mob threats to people in government. That's what it seems like. Like, this is a coup. I don't even know if it counts as a coup, because it seems like Trump was bought by tech oligarchs from Go. And I don't know. I feel like if I was in Musk's position, I'd be a little concerned. A little bit concerned that a private citizen is appearing to be a sort of self-anointed petty tyrant threatening the government. I'd be a little concerned for my well-being. I feel like it's a dangerous spot to be in for all these people. We're very shortly into this, and it's like, I don't know. This is not good. Not good. It's a coup of democracy, not Trump. Yeah. There's also, there was this. It was kind of wild. Where was that? So this is from a couple days ago. A few days ago. Musk shows us what actual government censorship on social media looks like. For years, we've watched self-proclaimed free speech warriors hyperventilate about imaginary government control of social media content moderation. Mysteriously, as I pointed out last fall, this is from Tech Dirt. These warriors have developed sudden laryngitis when social media platform owners Elon Musk and Donald Trump actually took over the US government. Anyone with a functioning brain knew this would eventually create real First Amendment problems when their government roles collided with their platform ownership. Guess what just happened? Over the weekend, Wired published an explosive report naming 6 Elon Musk employees who have effectively commandeered significant portions of the federal government. These aren't seasoned public servants, they're inexperienced 20-somethings between 19 and 24 with unprecedented access to sensitive government systems. As Kathy Gelles correctly points out, this represents a massive cybersecurity breach. Quote, the engineers are Rakesh Baba, Edward Korestein, Luke Ferrator, Gautier Cole Killian, Gavin Kleiger, and Ethan Chautran, all of whom are named like they're Marvel characters. What the fuck is going on? None have responded to requests for comment from Wired. Representatives from OPM, GSA, and Doge did not respond to requests for comment. Already, Musk's lackeys have taken control of the Office of Personnel Management and General Services Administration and have gained access to the Treasury Department's payment system, potentially allowing him access to a vast range of sensitive information about tens of millions of citizens, businesses, and more. On Sunday, CNN reported that Doge personnel attempted to improperly access classified information and security systems at the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, and that top USAID security officials who thwarted the attempt were subsequently put on leave. The AP reported that Doge personnel had indeed accessed classified material. Now, this is what stuck out to me. This person here, this is what I wanted to show. Fear None Inc. Don't know who that is. Here's a list of techies on the ground helping Musk gaining and using access to the U.S. Treasury payment system. And it lists those people there. And Musk replies, "You have committed a crime." No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't at all. Like, I just imagine. And here's the thing. Like, Musk is stupid. Musk is genuinely stupid. And people really need to internalize this. He's not just arrogant and hypocritical, he's stupid. But, more importantly, this guy is pulling strings in major government departments, and he thinks, his mindset is, if you expose the names of people who are running your country, you have committed a crime. And then he had the comment removed. He puts it very well here. Let's be crystal clear about what just happened. A powerful government official who happens to own a major social media platform, among many other businesses, just declared that naming government employees is criminal. It's not. And then used his private platform to suppress that information, which he, by the way, characterized as the public square historically. Which, to me, by the way, seems like a very strong argument when you characterize a social media platform as the public square, as an essential component of your state's democracy. That's a very strong argument for nationalizing it. That shouldn't be under the control of one private citizen, ever. Ever. That should be owned by the state. It's not the online public square, obviously. These aren't classified operatives. They're public servants who, theoretically, work for the American people and the Constitution, not Musk's personal agenda. Oh, contraire. That is exactly what they work for. This doesn't just seem like a First Amendment issue. It's a textbook example of what the First Amendment was designed to prevent. It's a little bit worse than that, actually. Like, I'm sorry. This is actually a justifiable. It's crazy, actually. This guy is at war with your state, Americans. This is essentially an act of war against your democracy. That's an existential crisis. This is someone, a powerful representative of the oligarchy, just deciding to buy out your country. That's it. That's it. But it's okay. Look, all right? They're not entirely incompetent, because they managed to do this. Trump bans transgender female athletes for women's sports in new executive order. I'm not even going to bother reading this. First of all, because I already have, but secondly, because in light of everything else, it's just kind of funny, isn't it? It's just funny. Like, you threaten tariffs on a bunch of your allies and then have to back off them because they're so stupid and they're so ill-informed. I just to emphasize how dumb this is. I actually only learned about this recently because I've been focused on other things, but this went under my radar. Um, Donald Trump wants to get rid of the income tax, right? Like, look at this for a second. He has said explicitly. I'm sorry, it's hilarious. On the campaign trail, Donald Trump floated an all-tariff policy, which he said would allow the U.S. to eliminate income tax. For those of you for whom the hilarity of this is not obvious, let me explain. Tariffs are meant to dissuade companies from buying outside of their country. Okay? It makes products coming in more expensive. And so it encourages people to buy local. They buy from around here. So tariffs are meant to discourage companies from paying for tariffed products. So the purpose of tariffs is to dissuade people from paying for them. But now the tariffs which you are trying to dissuade people from paying for are now supposed to replace income tax. You see the problem. Like, tariffs can absolutely increase your coffers, right? Like they're not nothing. You can get a lot of money from tariffs. But it's like, ugh. But God, like, the scariest thing about this is not that your country has now been taken over by a cabal of naive morons who are bought and paid for by tech oligarchs. It's that they don't know how the world works. They don't know what planet they're on. They're pulling strings that they don't know what's on the other end of them. So it's like this is terrifying levels of stupidity, because you have them people at Musk's behest just outright threatening government employees or threatening citizens for talking about government employees. I think we're in a little bit of trouble, guys. This is my rant the other night. These people don't understand how anything works and therefore anything is possible. Look, okay, I'm in my 30s. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't understand how half this shit works. You think some 19-year-old appointed by Musk does? We are in trouble. We are in deep, deep trouble, friendos. Thanks, Biden. He had one job to do. He had to have heart disease before the election. It's all. He had one job. That's it. Mr. President, do you think Vince McMahon will be president of the U.S. next? I mean, the stage is set. He'd look better than Trump marching up to the podium, that's for sure. Trump's looking old. Who knows how sentient he even is anymore. I still can't get over, though. I still can't get over that I mean, he's not the author of The Art of the Deal. He had that ghostwritten. But I still can't get over how the guy whose name is on the book, The Art of the Deal, started off his tenure as president, declaring to the world that, hey, when I give you threats, I'm going to constantly defer them because I don't know what I'm threatening, and everybody around me panics and tells me, stop, Don, stop. Don't tariff Canada. But they got a trade deficit. But they owe us money. No, that's not what a trade deficit is, Donald. Calm down. That trade deficit actually means they can find other markets more easily than we can. Bad idea, Donald. You know who's going to get hit first? Your base. Poor Republicans. Democrats will come back with a smug "I told you so" face. I don't know about that. The Democrats are so out of touch. But I don't know. I would hope that after the failure of Kamala, I keep forgetting. Everybody pronounces it different. The failure of Harris's campaign. I don't think they can be smug anymore. Well, they will be. They're liberals. China's going to take over. Are they that bad? Yeah, they are. They are. China is. But, you know, depends on who you are. If you're Iran or Syria or Gaza, maybe not. All right, by the way, chat. We're back to normal streams. We're going to be streaming 3 times a week. 5 times this week because we got the ICO thing. That's guaranteed 3 times a week. And then essays are going to start coming out in between that, as well as segments. In the meantime, to keep the content higher quality, I'm still doing the theory meter. That is back up. We are now back in business for that. We are 50 away from theory. 64. Somebody asked how much math I did in school. 64 away from drama. Here's how it works for newcomers, okay? See in the bottom of the screen, we got 2 values. We got theory over there, and we got drama right there. And here's how this works. If you want us to skip to a theory segment in which we talk about some really advanced philosophical, political theory, whatever topic, I'm currently reading Living Currency by Pierre Klazowski. I'm also going through The Accursed Share by Bataille. I'm also going through Anti-Oedipus, which we are not covering. Brooks, calm down. More Bataille, etc., etc. A lot of really weird pink French books. That's not necessarily what's going to be on the list, but if you want us to switch to talking about something like that, put the word theory or squid into your super chat. If we hit $100 in super chats, we skip to a theory segment. If you want the regular content to continue, put the word drama or jellyfish into your super chat, okay? Now, you guys don't know this, but we actually do have actual living drama jellyfish now. They're right back here, as you can see, sort of behind my screen. Look at them. Aren't they beautiful? All right. But I digress. Put the word jellyfish or drama into your super chat. When's Simon done? I have Simon done. That white one right there. See? Next to Homo Ludens? You can't really see it because it's behind my head. I'm going to put the jellyfish back there at some point. I just have to figure out the wiring. No, those are jellyfish. Those aren't squid. Those are jellyfish. The squids are like... The squids are up there. Above us. Those are the squids. As well as Dr. Kalmar back here, as you can see. And Duck Nana, who is not a squid. And Squiddleton. He's looking rather upset right now. Whatever happened to your horror short story? I'm still working on it. I told you very specifically. I am a sensitive artiste, and my work is slow and pure. Thank you, Rother, for the 10 euros. I appreciate it. Drama. Very well. Well, I have to open that thing because everything reset. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Here we go. Okay. All right, so that's euros. That'd be about 14. There we go. 50-50. That is a nice balance. I like that. But I expect some good writing. It will be very good writing. It'll be good. Are you supposed to be rereading AO for the 10th time to match Brooks' power level? Look, I am reading AO for the 6th time, the beginning of it at least. I'm finally sort of getting it. Mostly because I read a lot of background stuff before going into it this time. I am currently going through AO. I am at, Brooks, shut up. I know you're going to say I don't get it. I'm currently on page 75, and it's been a slow 75 pages. But I'm hoping I actually get through it in the next couple of months. Maybe in the next month. I'm gonna go going heavy on stuff. But yeah. Carl Calamari inquired. It's actually Dr. Kalmar, just to be clear. He is Russian and he feels very bad about recent events. I can see why President likes jellyfish. Him and them are both proof brainless things can thrive. This is true. Well put. Well stated. Sunday, why let the left video win? We already done that. We did that already. I had my why the left left me video. And Brooks came on and argued me out of it. It was very annoying. I had my whole branding strategy figured out as well. Just yeah, fuck that. That's okay. Will it be good as Tyler's short story? If it is as good as Tyler's short story, I will be very disappointed in the decline of my writing ability. Very much so. Okay. Okay, theory segment. I'm gonna put some theory options on the board, and then we're gonna press on to the next content, okay? So Bataille essays. Well, I'm just gonna give you some names, okay, of stuff we'll go through. So Bataille, Kozowski. It won't be living currency, so living currency is already paid for. I'm working on an essay using that at the moment, actually. Let's say, and let's do reroll. Okay, if reroll wins, we do new options. We need someone non-French. How about Lakanza Crete, go insane on it? I can't read. Oh, but Byung-Chul Han's good. Yeah, let's do that, okay? And then reroll. If reroll wins, we do new options. Okay? In the meantime, we're continuing to go through reactionaries failing to think. Why? Because I think they're an interesting window into how political theory and philosophy can be done very, very badly. And I think they're really good leaping off points to do actual theory. But final note on this, okay? I just can't stress enough. Trump bans transgender female athletes from women's sports and new executive order. The only thing he's managed to actually do so far. Well done. Well done, Donald. It reminds me of a great comedy bit by the late John Pinette, who really had no right to live any longer than he did, but he should have nonetheless, because he was a gift to mankind. But he had this bit about toilet paper. He's like, you never buy cheap toilet paper. Never. Okay? Don't you like yourself? Never buy cheap toilet paper. Toilet paper is an assurance that you're going to be okay. Oh, the bills are late, but I got good toilet paper. This is Donald Trump buying his good toilet paper. That's what this is. Because this will be thus far the only thing that he will have actually succeeded at. That will be a done deal. And it's so fucking useless. Like, thank you, Donald. Our economy's in shambles. All of our allies are now building new networks with our rivals. The United States' position as the power in the world is going to decline at a much faster rate. But there's no transes in sports. Yay. Well done. At least we got this, exactly. Actually, the executive order doesn't stop anyone from being in women's sports legally. Remember his original order, he didn't change and defines us all as females. It also does specify transgender female athletes, doesn't it? So that can't be constitutional. That's discriminating on the basis of sex. Because, like, are transgender male athletes banned from male sports? I mean, they probably are. They probably are. Well, to be fair, he seems to have a full head of steam going with deporting an insane number of people. Yeah. Oh, by the way. Yeah, whatever. This is, He really is looking awful, isn't he? He's like, it's like his face is hovering over just a melting thing of flesh. Like, these people are just not well. These people are being stretched very thin, very old. It's like just masks for swirling vortexes of stupidity behind them that they barely understand. Yes, I'm body shaming Trump. Sue me. Don't sue me, Trump, please. No, I'm serious. Yeah, I know. I saw that, Brooks. The exec order defines females as anyone female at conception, which is everyone legally. Yeah, but here's the thing, though, right? The way totalitarianism works is that the law is not heeded. The will of the Führer is inferred. Intuited. Moving to Gaza so I can see my fellow Americans before I get bulldozed. I mean, Blackwater might have an issue with that. They're already talking about how they're going to, like, restructure the thing into little mercenary guarded cantons. All right. Let's continue. That nice guy, that nice book channel I was looking at, I found the reason to hate him. Okay? I found it. I found the reason why I don't need to be nice to him. So we won. It's okay. And it's let me find it. The thumbnail tells you everything, okay? down here. This one. Look at this. Bottom right. Okay. Self-education, my journey through the Harvard classics. And I want to draw your attention to the thumbnail. The death of our education system. This makes me very angry. For a couple of reasons. The first one is that this leans into the... You want in on this one? I thought you said you were gonna, like, let me get my kill, remember? That whole thing? Sure, why not? Why not? Call in. Just steal all my thunder, it's all good. That's fine. Hello.
You did. Yeah, fuck it. Fuck it. It's fine. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm alright. Tired. As usual.
As a last note, the thing I find most fascinating about this, the way they're talking and the way the media is reporting stuff around Trump is specifically this, because the executive orders aren't saying what people are saying, but so what's happening is the news, instead of reporting what's happening legally, which they used to do, that actually is the thing. They used to really care about what is the wording, how is it set up, who it'll affect, but instead, because they understand, as you do, and I do, that power is ultimately dispersed as necessary and laws don't really matter. But now that reporters are reporting that, it makes it de facto true, and it shifts how laws work at all versus what it was.
Well, it changes the nature of law altogether, because now it's normalized that laws are not the rigid scaffolding.
The language doesn't matter. And the language doesn't matter, which is terrifying. Like,
well, it also means, like, when laws are violated, these are your options. You fall in line, or Civil War time, guys. That's it.
Yeah, Mario's brothers got to show up, or that's it.
Yep.
It's genuinely it's a wild shift that, again, was sort of in the background, but making it forefront, I think, is pretty amazing. I do find it pretty amazing.
I'm reminded of, I watched Civil War finally.
It's a wonderful film.
It is very good. The part where
the marketing fucked that movie. The marketing fucked that movie, I think, because a lot of people
they wanted a war. They thought it was going to be a war movie, which it was, but not following the people.
They didn't think it would be about war, which is a weird way to phrase it, but I don't know how else to put it. It's like, it's not about war. It's about how we talk about war and how we know about war, which is wonderful.
You know what a good analogy for it is, actually? You know how in, like, Cyberpunk, they almost always are noir because it allows, like, some person with some special, like, dispensation or whatever to go through, like, all levels of society? Have full access. They can look at, they can get into the office of the CEO of the mega company that really controls the world. They can talk to all the politicians. They go into the slums and whatnot. They get this cross-section of every part of social life that most people don't get. That's kind of what that was like. Where it was sort of, it was kind of like it's obviously more mundane or whatever, but it's the similar, like, cross-section of all of a society at any given time that you get in, like, Blade Runner or something. Yeah. It was really good. But the part that stuck with me that was the most salient was, like, 300 gets you a ham sandwich, Canadian.
Yeah. There was a handful of really great lines when the sniper stuff is going on, and she asks, "What side are you on?" And the guy's like, "What?" Like, just confused. It's such a great little moment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little great moments like that.
All right. This is 7 minutes long. This is going to be short. Before we continue, guys, I have an editor to pay who's sleeping out in the cold and the snow right now, okay? Donate if you appreciate what I do and you want to help support the channel and keep us all alive for now. All right. So, this guy, Rob Peary, The Cause, that's his channel. As far as I can ascertain, this is some dude who bought a Harvard collection of classics and decided to make a self-help channel entirely about that, and is treating that as, like, a substitute for education and learning and just everything, which
And,
makes me very
and
mad and sad at the same time.
and he's doing the thing. I don't know if you remember when he was showing the books, and I got really tilted that there was like Virginia Woolf with Kafka and then D.H. Lawrence right in a row. And the
Yeah.
reason was because if you read those in that order, it will fuck your understanding of Kafka and then really fuck your understanding of what Lawrence is doing, because they're not meant to be. It's like seeing a comedy and then a drama film and then a horror movie, but having them in the same collection, you'd be like, oh, well, how do I unite these things? You will make sense of them through each other. And I poked ahead a little bit to a few of these guys' other reviews. When you sent this video, I was like, no.
Yeah.
And he is reading it in order and then using his understandings of other things that he's read for the next thing. So he's literally like trying to thread through all this stuff and find the commonalities.
Now here's the thing.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Every single book in that series, like every single book, more or less, period, depending on your reasons, is worth going through at some point. But here's the problem.
Yes, read books. Read books.
Read books. Books good. Here's the problem, though. The way great books collections as products are assembled is some guy gets some idea through osmosis of what quote-unquote classics are. And they think, oh, if I read the classics, I am sophisticated. I have ascended to that level. I have beaten it like a level in a video game. And so what happens is you have this guy who's picked out stuff from his reading, or more likely, stuff other people have read that he's aware of, that he's including because he hasn't gotten them yet, but he knows that he has to, into a thing that he then sells as a package. And somebody buys this, and they don't read this stuff the way someone who's serious reads this stuff, where they're reading it in conversation with other people around them. They're reading it as, this is the step in this product that you read to complete the game. And so you have a deep actual, like, degeneration of understanding of this material by people who are actually religiously going through this stuff. And then you have people also who are using it and sort of the aesthetics around it and the fact of its being a commodity that people are considering buying as a vanity item largely, in order to make additional like products that they can then use for their own personal income, which is what this is. And you will notice all these thumbnails are just, look, he just bought a set of books. One set of books. A single set of books. And his entire program is just selling himself as someone with valid opinions on education and philosophy and so on and so forth and politics based on him buying a particular product.
It actually made me rethink. I was going to start a series. I own most of the Radical Thinkers series from Verso, which is similar to this. It's like they're collections of books, but they're not really like, you've got to read all these. They're more like, hey, here is just what Verso considers, they've got the rights to publish. These are just these amazing books. And it's mass-produced versions of them so you can get collections of them cheap. It was easiest for me to get a bunch of them for $10 rather than each one for 30. That's kind of why they exist. Yeah. And I was going to start going through them in a series and like, hey, here, let's just do the next Verso series, the next book, and just one at a time. And this talked me out of it. This talked me out of it so badly.
It's terrible. Well, here's the thing, too. It also encourages like a sort of pyramidical approach to reading. And this is one of the reasons why you have so many people on YouTube and in politics now who are like weirdly super ignorant people who have a lot of opinions about how Aristotle figured out everything. And the reason for it is that Aristotle's at the front of the list. You look at like, oh, here are all the classics you need to understand the last 2,000 years of philosophy and science. And what do you start with? The earliest ones that are easily translatable into English and sold as books. Plato and Aristotle.
And I'm even hesitant to say they've read that. I think one of the things I learned early on is most of these people who like Randians who love Aristotle and talk about the laws of identity and all this literally never actually read Aristotle, and they just read like a handful of paper, like secondary texts.
Well, I was watching
Pykoff or Rand or others, and
well,
they just never really picked the book up.
Well, the upload that I had earlier today was covering Moldbug, like Curtis. I keep calling him Moldbug. Curtis Yarvin, who was talking about like we have this conceit that our political science today is better than Aristotle's political science. It's like, but of course it is. We've had 2,000 years. He just set the foundations, and we critiqued Aristotle since then. And what an insult it is to Aristotle's legacy that nothing came of it. You just have to keep going back to the original thing, and there's nothing else to do. Like, it's important to understand Aristotle, primarily to understand, like, what is the actual, like, logic that went into the construction of a whole lot of other people who also used Aristotle. But, like, to say that he figured it out is comical.
It's bad. We get people to the QC a lot who go, hey, I'm reading AO, or I'm about to read this. What do you recommend? I heard that in order to do difference and repetition, for example, I've got to have a background in Kant and this and this and this and this, and I've got to read this and this and this, which is accurate in a sense. But again, it presumes this sort of hierarchy of reading process that you have to have grasps in all those things in order to be able to read the book, and that you have to have an order to it.
Yes. Well, it's worse. It's worse than that.
There's some truth in that.
There is, and I'll meet you halfway, but I've got a point afterwards. So I know who you are, so don't interrupt me. But
I'll mute myself to stop. And
like having Kant under your belt before reading Deleuze helps a lot. Having Kant under your belt before reading anybody helps a lot. But here's the thing that people miss: your reading of Kant or whoever is going to be inflected by the people who lived between you and Kant. You are not reading Kant in his time. You are not in Kant's time. You are not one of his peers. You're not one of his contemporaries. Kant is someone who you're reading in translation, who wrote a very long time ago relative to where you are in history. And to say that you need to have read these people in advance of reading contemporary stuff presumes, one, that they are not themselves contemporary as you are receiving them, because they are contemporary. You're reading translations that are recent by people who have interpreted Kant in the light of scholarship since Kant died. But also that the people who are writing currently might not have clarifying views on Kant that will help you read backwards into them. In fact, what I've found generally is that my reading of older stuff, if I start from the bottom and I start from Plato and Aristotle and go all the way up, which I did once, that's how I began, because that's how the university system typically teaches it to you in political science. You'll have survey courses where you'll do like political science from the classical period onwards. You actually get so much more out of this material reading backwards and seeing where stuff came from, how it was developed, and so on and so forth. Montesquieu, before reading Rousseau, you will get so much more out of Montesquieu and out of Rousseau if you start from Rousseau first. If you start from Kant first and go back to Rousseau, same deal. Hobbes is weird.
I would even add to this. I think how I tend to recommend, and I think most people in our server who have like ridiculous backgrounds in Deleuze take a very different tactic, which is, hey, why don't just, first off, don't presume that like anyone who, let's say you've read all of that stuff and then you go read Anti-Oedipus, you're not going to understand Anti-Oedipus. There's not like a setup of ways that you're going to come into this correctly. And this would be true, I would say, of like Kant, a first reading of Critique of Pure Judgment, for example. I absolutely did not understand Kant. I read a whole bunch of the things backing him, but he didn't grab me. And so tends to be what I recommend is read Anti-Oedipus, read Kant, read the thing that grabs you. And if you find something that grabs you, go dig into that. There is backgrounds and huge amounts of writing behind every one of these thinkers. And that includes Plato and Aristotle. You just talk about the Socratics, the pre-Socratics, talk about the Cynics. You talk about the Stoics. Like there's just an amazing amount of thought that even in them, and follow your passions with it, because one, you will get infinitely more out of everything if you're doing that, and you're not like, I guess I'm going to have to read this, because you're not going to understand Kant before you get to difference and repetition unless you're into that.
Yeah.
And this is just true, not just the philosophy. This is across the board, and this is, I think, what a lot of people mess up when it starts.
Well,
talking
so people
about,
who critique
literature or other shit.
Yeah.
is follow your passion, and you will immediately find an infinite amount of amazing shit that will help you grasp things better in every way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and people who critique previous thinkers as well, like you will get a better grasp of those thinkers through those people, even if you have to return to them afterwards, because they literally had to appreciate them in a level of detail others couldn't in order to make unique critiques of their work. So like Bergson, you'll learn a lot about Kant reading Bergson. You'll learn a lot about Kant reading like Deleuze also, but like so on and so forth. Nietzsche probably a little bit less so, but yeah. But I mean,
and get away from the idea of understanding too.
Yeah.
There's an outsider view that like people who do hard philosophy and get really into it, that at some point these guys really understand Plato, and by understand they've like perfected it. And I don't know anyone who's serious in the field, from postdoc to professors to writers, who would go, yes, I actually have a perfect grasp of this thinker. That's not how this shit works.
Well, you know who famously said, by the way, that you will not get a grasp of a person's philosophy by reading their books? Plato.
Who? Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and there's a final point before we actually get into this goddamn thing. Which is that like, if everybody's reading the same shit in order, you're assuming that reading all the background material, for example, to Anti-Oedipus will produce Anti-Oedipus by itself, in which case the book is superfluous. But B, why do you want everybody to have the exact same background going in? That like intrinsically limits the array of things people can even think, simply because there's not enough time. It's not like going through elementary school where you're learning like basically how to read and write and do basic like maths and whatnot. It's no, this stuff takes decades to read properly. If everybody's starting in the same order, you'll never get beyond Aristotle.
And you'll never do anything interesting with it, because obviously, since all of us are ultimately products of our environment and material conditions, the variety of those material conditions and the things with which we engage these books and how we engage these books is necessary for us to create new structures as we collide into things we never even expected. Someone who, for example, and I think this would be, if I had to guess, this is the time it happened for you, is you're reading Living Currency. And I bet you Sod, for the first time you went, oh, fuck, Sod did shit. You knew he did shit. But this is the first time where you went, oh, fuck, Sod is important. And with that thing, genuinely, you could easily never have that happen if you don't run into people like a Kolosowski or like a me or people on my server or people in your chat who have completely different backgrounds of reading and other things. Again, Sod is so deeply important to Kolosowski and Deleuze, but most people have never even read Sod at all.
No.
And you need that shit. You need that shit. You need new shit.
Genuinely. And unfortunately, it's incredibly disturbing 1,000-page novels that you read from Sod, but I'm not in this for the comfort. In any case.
Oh, dude, he's awesome to read. He's genuinely like enjoyable to read, as uncomfortable as it is.
Sick bastard.
Well, yeah.
You're supposed to say, well, again after that.
I at some point you and I are going to do this movie series, and I am going to have you sit and watch the Terrifier series with me. And I cannot wait. Because my brother
The House of Sound. You joke. You fucking joke, Gent. You think he's not talking to that? Oh my god.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Anyways,
my brother and I both think the Terrifier series are like comedies, because they're very funny. They're very, very funny.
All right.
It's not gore porn, it's comedy.
Shh, stop reading chat. Never read chat. It's always a mistake. They are ants. They exist to lift the exceptional onto their shoulders. I know. Okay. All right. So this is what's this? I've forgotten his name already. This is Rob Peary's Self-Education: My Journey Through the Harvard Classics. The most offensive part of this to me so far, I haven't watched this yet, is the thumbnail. The death of our education system. This makes me mad. Anyways, here we go.
The device a little bit more.
Oh, why are we starting way over there? There we go. Okay, here we go. And we want cinema mode. Boom. Hey, look, Brooks, it's you.
Fuck, yeah, kind of, maybe. You know, someone called me, what was the phrase someone said? Gay Dugan.
Oh yeah.
Someone. I appreciate that.
I can see it.
Not bad. I can see it. Um, this is a. Do you like the series of books behind him, like perfectly in order
Just the.
on the shelf?
It's like
The one
It's like
shelf?
he bought the room. It's also like perfectly encompassed by that wall. It's like he bought the room to accommodate the book series.
It's a trip, man.
Okay. I said this last time. I'm going to say it again. People who insist on buying hardcovers that are super like posh looking or pick like what to buy based on the binding are not serious. A lot of the most important stuff in the best translations with the best commentaries that actually like advance your understanding of stuff beyond just like going through the motions, like as if philosophy and learning were like just a done deal where it's just a matter of like downloading an upgrade, like you learn Kung Fu as Neo in The Matrix. People who do that are fundamentally not serious. A lot of the most
like
serious
some
material.
jackass who spends a fortune on like spending like ridiculous copies of The Hobbit, for example, and it spends a fortune on this very particular binding. Not serious people.
Those are in English, and they're novels. Anyways, as I was saying, and by the way, never buy expensive books from Amazon anymore. They will destroy them, and you will not be able to refund them. But I digress.
Just don't buy books from Amazon. Buy them from Abe Books. Buy them from locals. Locals can order them from each other. There's an entire network of small booksellers who ship books to each other and help each other. Buy local, buy local, buy local.
It's like a drug cartel.
Yes.
The material that you want to read, if you actually want to understand shit, often comes in shitty little paperbacks like this, okay? I hate it. It's a crime, but it is what it is. If, however, the binding matters to you, here's a quick little tip. I really like Zone books. I love Zone books. A, because they have really good scholarly editions of books, so they are actually high quality, but B, even though they are paperback, the bindings, as you can see from those delicate little loops at the bottom, not a straight line. Come on, focus, focus, focus. Ugh, come on, camera, seriously, it's right there.
That's on a macro lens, my friend.
There we go, I got it. See how that spine is like these nice little arcs? That means their bindings are sewn. They have threads going through them. Okay, so this thing will outlast a hardback that has a glued binding. Which, by the way, don't get expensive versions of Hackett hardcovers, I just learned recently. Because, well, if you buy some of them, especially ones from like 10 years ago, they will have sewn bindings, and they will be very high quality. The newer ones have the same cloth covers, but they're glued, which means they basically took hardcovers, they basically took paperbacks and put a hardcover over them. Which is very bad, because they will actually wear worse than just plain paperbacks because the spine is rigid. So it puts more stress on the glue. It's just very, very bad, and they'll charge like $200 for it. Anyways, I digress. This is Rob Peary's Self-Education, My Journey Through the Harvard Classics series. If anyone tells you they're an autodidact, just there's a shorter word for that, and it's moron, okay?
Welcome to my new series on the Harvard Classics. My name is Rob, and I'm
Brooks, have you ever called yourself an autodidact?
No, I hate that term a lot.
Good, okay, just checking.
I've used it for
Welcome.
other people occasionally, but not really.
Anyone on YouTube who's an autodidact is probably a moron. We'll run with that.
If they call
my new
themselves that, it just means that they like reading sometimes, and they seem to know more than other people.
Autodidact? I think it's
It
both.
is didact.
I thought it could be both.
No.
Because you say
No.
didactic, right?
Didactic.
Really?
Yes.
I've been pronouncing it wrong for 10 years.
Have you been saying the word didactic?
Didact.
Fuck. Yes.
Didact?
I think when
Nice.
people say didactic quickly, it sounds like didactic.
I mean, that's like basic phonetics, though. That's a fucking vowel. Never mind. It's basic phonetics on that one.
I'm dressed like a grandmother in a basement full of books, so I look like someone who talks to people.
True.
series on the Harvard Classics. My name is Rob, and I'm
Rob.
looking forward to embarking on this journey with you through the Harvard Classics series. It's a 50-volume set we'll get into in a little bit, Before we begin, I just want to give you an idea of what to expect, my goals for this series, and explain why this set of books is important to me. First, let's go into why the Harvard Classics. And you may be able to relate. I went to a public school here in Louisiana, and Louisiana is not known for our stellar education system. In fact, I think we rank like almost last on education and health and pretty much across the board. So the quality of my education was very lacking. And not just because of the public school system, but the atmosphere I feel learning was around here. From watching movies in class like Finding Nemo to doing practice exams for these CAT test agendas, it really kind of bothers me to look back and realize that I lost out on a lot of my golden years of education because I was kind of focused in the wrong direction. I was not inspired or driven to read anything really beyond what was kind of instructional or entertaining. And I honestly look back on these years and just really long to go back and to correct it. And I realize that it's my responsibility at this point to educate myself. And I really don't feel you should be relying on like a government.
Sadness things.
Yep.
I have no reason to believe he's not being completely forthright with what he's saying.
Yep.
I have friends in Mississippi. I have friends in Alabama, and their schooling was shit, and it was shit in ways that I thought my schooling was shit. And theirs is like hilariously worse, like way, way, way fucking worse. And so it naturally creates people who are, I don't want to say predisposed to not learn more, predisposed to not go study things. It creates that type of person. And the world that he lives in is one where right now, as they get rid of the Department of Education, the shitty education system that he just went through, by the way, is primarily funded federally. And so
by the way, I said this earlier, the people who are going to be specifically targeted by Trump's policies of gutting these federal programs are not going to be the people from well-funded, well-organized blue states. They're going to be the poor people in red states who have nothing. They're going to be hit first. Real hard.
It's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad.
So I have a huge amount of empathy for anyone who's in this position. They're like, I got this huge set of books from a garage sale. I got them, like, this is going to be his story, basically, right? Like, I got them at a garage sale. Someone bought them for me. My dad left them to me, whatever. And so I started reading them because I wanted to know more, because people do thirst for knowledge, I think, generally. And it's because people weren't ever taught how to learn. They don't really understand what's going on.
Well, that's the thing too, and it's like, and they're sold like a notion. I'm going to go into a spiel about this later, but they're sold a notion largely through aesthetics of what an educated person looks like, and typically what an educated person looks like is a guy in a suit who goes onto a talk show and talks about X, Y, and Z books that you recognize from the page master, and that is not it. But they leave it thinking, oh, understanding things, being knowledgeable, quote unquote, is a thing that one gets by reading X, Y, and Z classic books. And if I do so, I have ascended to a higher level. And no, not at all. The reason for university is not that you get access to books. You have access to books outside of university. The reason for university, especially for the liberal arts, is that you have tutorship by people who know how to learn, which is a skill set. And what this poor guy, and I don't hate this guy. I'm angry at this guy because this guy bought a product and is now selling a false notion of what education is on the basis of having bought a product. Mm-hmm. But I feel bad for this guy. I don't hate this guy because the understanding that he has was not created by him. He is himself a victim of somebody else doing the exact same thing. I was watching, I've got an ASMR playlist. I've been thinking about this a lot recently. I recently said that I think Destiny's primary appeal is as an ASMR channel. There's the creature comforts of the sounds he makes on stream. Largely, most of his channel is dead air. And it's just a vibe of being in a room with your friend, clicking on his computer and eating and stuff like that. Very unpleasant in light of recent history. But a lot of these people who make it to sort of popular consumption as public intellectuals are people who have a very careful aesthetic, that hits certain buttons that has nothing whatsoever to do with the actual thoughts or things that they're dealing with, and everything to do with the sensation of being in an intellectual quote-unquote space. And so you have people like Christopher Hitchens who are very stupid. Like just really, really unsophisticated and dumb.
Christopher Hitchens was not dumb.
He was pretty dumb.
He was not dumb.
He was pretty dumb. You listen to any of his philosophical debates, he's really simple.
Philosophically, sure, but that's because he wasn't that. He was a very good journalist.
Cheerleading the war and cheerleading the invasion.
Doesn't
of
matter.
Iraq.
He did good work. He did very good work.
Did he do good work?
Yeah, he existed as a leftist before
I think
that.
Peter
He had a
Hitchens. I
life.
think Peter Hitchens sucks too, but so did he.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean he's stupid.
When he engages in philosophical debates, he is stupid.
When he engages in things he shouldn't be. Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Places that
We'll
are
run
not
with
his
that.
expertise.
Okay. Well, I agree with that. Just like I think that I think Sam Harris is probably a perfectly competent lab tech. He's probably not.
Sure.
But
Well,
okay.
if you haven't read, look, Blood, Class, and Nostalgia is a phenomenal book.
Yeah, but that's
like,
that's
really.
that's very much pre God is Not Great Christopher Hitchens though.
I mean, Trial of Henry Kissinger is around the time.
That's long
And it's
before, isn't it?
fantastic. A couple of years. He wrote good shit. Like again, and everything that the atheistic
like
nightmare
6
movement
years.
that existed after that, like, Why Orwell Matters, also by the way, quite good. Despite him not realizing why it's good, doesn't matter. Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Just like Christopher Hitchens, I think he had some phenomenal comebacks, phenomenal lines. He was very clever, very smart. I'm hesitant to call him stupid. He was ignorant of things he should be ignorant of and didn't understand his own limitations. It's that thing I say. It's like I don't go on and have a channel about, like, I don't know, football or baseball. I don't know about these things. I don't
Right.
do sports, and it's okay. I don't have to have opinions on everything that exists.
Okay,
and
but the
I wish we could get back to that.
problem though is that the Christopher Hitchens I'm talking about, the one I was exposed to, wasn't a journalist. He was a journalist who decided that he was an expert on all things philosophical and literary and started to cheerlead wars
Sure.
on the basis of the cultural degeneracy of the people they were targeting, right? So he was stupid.
Sure.
And he engaged in philosophical debates that were stupid. So maybe he
Sure.
did good work at some point, but the man that I saw and that had celebrity in the way that he did while I was alive I was an adult rather, was stupid. Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins did really amazing work, certainly in popular science, but also like his work is actually referenced by people who do critical work in like evolutionary studies. Like we both admire.
I put him in the same bucket in the same way.
Yeah,
Sam
yeah.
Harris
Okay,
also, by the way.
Okay, so
Sam Harris
we'll meet
would be
halfway
very
here.
much the same thing.
We'll meet halfway here. So Susan Oyama, even, who's someone we both like have a lot of admiration for, she has a lot of respect for Dawkins, right? Sunday's such a fucking elitist. I'm describing elites, Samuel Gasser. What do you mean I'm an elitist? I'm criticizing elites right now. Richard Dawkins, same deal.
Sure.
Suddenly, very, very stupid, engaging in stuff to do with sociology, with like social epistemology, like philosophy, and so on and so forth. Very stupid. Sam Harris is great because we can both agree he was stupid right at the gate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Daniel Dennett, same deal. Had some elements, significantly less so than all the rest, but stepped well outside of his bounds. But I'm not really concerned about him. Douglas Murray, really stupid. But all these people have something in common, less so as they get more competent, like your Dawkins and your Dennett, which is that they have very studied and very careful ways of portraying themselves that are very appealing and probably hit a bunch of organic sensational triggers that people don't think that they do. Dennett is an actual philosopher. Was an actual philosopher. He died recently, unfortunately. But yeah, he was good. And long story short, the stuff that people are getting is largely the representations of people who are educated, is largely not people doing work among peers. And watching those conversations, it's who can talk and deliver it like this, and they'll do that kind of like super
Correct.
intense, yeah. That
Basic
super
rhetoric.
intense like manner, yeah. But it's not just basic rhetoric because it's something else. Because rhetoric typically has to do with the language that you use. This is something different. This has to do with the
Americans being impressed by the British tone and their
no,
voice
it
that
is
makes
not
them
it is
seem
not
smart.
it is not the British tone. It's not the British tone. I disagree. I think there's a lot of people
Okay.
with very posh British accents, but I think Richard Dawkins is an example of someone who doesn't actually meet that threshold. Where it really is about a particular affect that is not. I don't think it's actually like nationally restrictive. I think it has to do with a certain involvement of certain like tactile or organic expressions or whatever that hit some part of your brain in the same way that going out in nature does. You have there's a calming sensation that occurs when you're sort of in like a forest on like a path or something, or by water or something like that. I think it's something very similar to that. I think it grounds people in sort of organic life in a certain kind of way, which is probably like over elaborating it. But I think it has a relaxing and pleasing effect that people are not always aware of. So like I think one of the things with like ASMR, for example, and one of the problems with ASMR as a concept is that I think it gives people the impression that this kind of being affected by noise is something rare, but I don't think that's true. I think it's probably pretty ubiquitous. I think what's happened is due to the way we're prudish about such things, a lot of people have been historically embarrassed to talk about that particular thing by itself. So ASMR, essentially, for people who are not familiar, I'm sure everybody is by now, is when you're listening to particular types of sounds, or what I've noticed, typical types of visual but not sound representations of some kind of finesse or some kind of like grounded activity or whatever. People notice a kind of physiological response. A lot of people describe it as like head tingling or whatever, but there's just generally a pleasant endorphin rush triggered by something in that kind of thing. And so people will listen to material designed specifically to do this. What I have found is that the more deliberate it is, the less effective it is. So I think it's something a bit more generalized and less specific than that. And I think everybody is vulnerable to it. And I think a lot of these people, I would bet the vast majority on analysis of these people who have managed to ascend to the popular, to the place in the popular imagination of being like public intellectuals are essentially like really good ASMR artists with a lot of money behind them, obviously. But I think it's a massive part. ASMR is not visual, no, by definition. But I think ASMR as a concept is artificially restrictive. I think it's a mistake to call it ASMR, because I don't think it's specific to audio cues at all. I think it's something a lot more general.
I agree. We're talking about ultimately the stimulus that a person experiences in things that sort of in VR and games. We talk about immersion, but when someone is stimulated in a whole bunch of different ways, the idea of ASMR is generally thought of as being mostly sexual, but it does stem from that same sort of physiological reaction to verbal, audio, oral, touch, all sorts of things, stimulation that keeps people very into a thing. And I think there's a lot to be said for simplicity in visuals and how visuals can do this, all the way down to sound and also just sort of how these interact as well, given where you're sitting and how you're sitting. I tend to agree with you on this, but like just to go back quick to the thing with Hitch, his life is a really fascinating one. And I always, I try to consider the conditions that a person lived within. And when you're talking about someone who was a leftist, was an outright Marxist, and kind of kept his Marxism part
into
of it,
his support for the Iraq War.
Sure. For him, again, I don't know if you read his papers, but for him, it's his Marxism was particular. He was focused very much on the materialist conception of history and the way that societies aren't just sort of an ideologically formed thing, but instead are born of their material conditions. This is a thing he wrote about, talked about early on, and his earliest existence in England especially, but you got to remember the time frame, the 70s to 80s, was one where leftism was conflated with communism, conflated with Trotskyism, Leninism, Stalinism, and whatever was happening in the USSR. And that type of thing I find tankies very tiring as it is today. But if the entirety of the left was focused around supporting the USSR, and that was the only way that you could find room in, I would probably end up becoming a bit disillusioned. And he did. He happily was part of these Marxist clubs when he was at Oxford, and he debated them because you got to remember, like, again, these groups, they didn't necessarily have.
He wasn't just disillusioned, though. Let's be clear. He was not just disillusioned. Like, I think people tend to forget the details of this. Well, maybe he also was disillusioned, but this is not a man who is like, well, I realize that this stuff isn't realistic, or that there's other theoretical viewpoints, or that the success of communism in the USSR was not going to result in the liberation of workers worldwide, or whatever. This is also a man who got up on stage and said, when somebody said, hey, I'm skeptical of the reasons for why we're going into Iraq and Afghanistan. Look how deep the termites have fed and dined. That's what he, badly paraphrased. But like, this is a guy who fundamentally became a full-throated propagandist. Period. This is not a person who's coming at this from a sophisticated point of view. If he had one before, that either makes him a grifter then or a grifter now, but it's either or, and I just don't buy it. I think he was deeply unsophisticated and or hollow to do that. He cheerleaded the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people. Whatever he did that was good in terms of journalism in the past, like, fuck him.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying. Like appreciate the good work people do, and if they do bad things, like we deal with lots of people that we take seriously despite that. But I don't. The scales don't match up here. And when we're talking about someone who's like has any level of sophistication on that order, that is completely belied by what he became. We're not just talking about someone who changed his positions. We're talking about someone whose existence was to stamp down people who took the positions that he would have had if he had any integrity. Like he was.
This might be a discussion for another time.
It might be, yeah. But anyways, I digress.
We definitely have a huge disagreement here.
I think we do. Fine. Let me pull up something though, just to give you an example. Okay.
I don't. Do you want to do this now?
Not really.
Is this what we're doing now?
No.
Because I'd rather
you
watch
wanted to fight on Hitchens.
Video and I didn't want to fight on Hitchens. I just wanted to just sort of defend the idea that he's not stupid, which I think is an oversimplification in a drastic way.
All right.
An institution to fully educate you. There should be supplemental education that you're seeking out on
Is this about Hitchens? He opposed the Gulf War, yeah, and then he cheerleaded the Iraq War. So.
Your own, which is why I started to look for a curriculum that I could better educate myself on my own time. And this led me to discover the Harvard Classics. Now, I've been a student of history for years now, and while diving down the biographies of like Thomas Jefferson, Franklin, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, I realized a common theme starting to shape, and it was they were all educated in the classics. And not even so much like Hamilton came from very humble beginnings, but he read through them on his own, like a self-education type progress until he did get to eventually go to college and stuff. But it was that simple theme that they all understood, like the basic foundation of that classical education. Most could speak multiple languages, from Latin to French. Some could even translate into Greek during that period. They all studied Plutarch. They were well versed in Cicero's orations. They quoted Locke, Voltaire, and they would go on to form a declaration and eventually a constitution based on the same knowledge that is deep ingrained in that classical education system. So I sat back and I was thinking to myself, why have I not been introduced to these books? And it hit me, it's hard to respect something that you've never been taught. Why were the most influential and respectable people of that age all reading these classical works while I was over here watching Barney and coloring Mickey Mouse pages? This led me to honestly just really want to change. So with that being said, what are the Harvard Classics? The Harvard Classics is a 50-volume series of classic works of world literature, important speeches, and historical documents compiled and edited by Harvard University President Charles W. Eliot in 1909 and 1910. So this series predates a lot of the progressive movement stuff. It predates World War I, World War II. So this is a completely different time frame when these books were being compiled. A great quote from Eliot explains his reasoning for compiling this series. Within the limits of 50 volumes containing about 23,000 pages, my task was to provide the means of obtaining such knowledge of ancient and modern literature as seemed essential to the 20th century idea of a cultivated man.
I hate that so much.
I do too.
The 20th century idea of a cultivated man. Okay. What is the cultivated man? That's something you write on a tombstone. This was a cultivated man. This was a Renaissance man. This was a man of culture. Okay. What did they do, though? Like, what did they actually know? What did they engage with? Oh, nothing. They bought a 50-step program. Okay.
The best acquisition of a cultivated man is a liberal frame of mind or way of thinking, but there must be added to that possession acquaintance with the prodigious store of recorded discoveries, experiences, and reflections with humanity, in its intermittent and irregular progress from barbarism to civilization, has acquired and laid up. Eliot.
And again, remember, this is the president of Harvard. Right? That's who he's quoting, Eliot, right?
Uh-huh. Yep.
So this is, and the president of Harvard in 1910, we'll just say probably not someone who's super into, egalitarianism, equal rights for women and people of color. Certainly not that, by the way. Harvard.
Well, certainly
president,
is not, for
different thing.
example, like getting involved in a process that will be carried forward all the way up to like Alan Bloom and all the way to present time with hacks like Douglas Murray and whatnot, or Douglas Murray, Charles Murray's the old one who did the bell curve, where you're not actually talking about these things because you think that they're actually essential to, understanding the conversation that has taken place to, condition like philosophy as it's done presently. But no, we can't read these black and women authors. What is this woke shit? Why are you reading these people? I don't care. I don't care what the identities of the authors are. I read stuff for its quality, like this 50-volume set that is published by Harvard. So it's like anyone who is actually going to tell you, look, read all of these books and you will be a cultivated person, without any attention paid, for example, to like, hey, are these actually good translations? Are these people actually reading these well? Are the supplementary notes actually explanatory enough? Is there actually, like, what is the actual program around this that makes all of these things properly conditioned by the stuff that comes before? And what can you actually do with this afterwards? If they're not asking like any of those questions, they're not thinking in terms of educating you. They're thinking in terms of selling you a product in the exact same way as a cigarette company is selling you their cigarettes by showing the rugged cowboy on their ad. That's it. That this is the nerd version of that.
That to me,
he really wants to set out, and Eliot's thing, and he kind of glossed over it here, but
Yeah.
the very idea was that anyone who owned this could get a quote unquote liberal education, is the phrase that's used.
Yeah.
And it's also not true, like on its face, because the stuff that's in it necessitates understandings of other things. That's how some knowledge works. Knowledge isn't sort of a thing then a thing then a thing. It's a network of understandings, and the things in this book you can't just plow through and make your way through. And it's really,
And you also shouldn't be reading them in frankly any specific order in that way. Like, there are certain things where you need background and some other things in order to get it. Like, just jumping into Anti-Oedipus, for example, is kind of impossible. Just from nowhere. Jumping into a lot of these people is kind of impossible just out of nowhere. But at the same time, it's like, there isn't like a rigid hierarchy of stuff you need to go through in order to understand these things. It's just, you need to reach a certain level of sophistication and conversance with how these things are talked about generally in order to be able to understand what they're kind of getting at with language that might be being used in sort of non-intuitive ways. This is just awful.
you have to read it a couple of times, I feel, to kind of get the grasp of what he's saying, but it's everything from when we were literally barbarians living out in tribes to now. that moves me into my next point. What do I hope we get?
Okay, first of all, I'm going to blow your mind here. Barbarians living in tribes are not actually represented on that bookshelf, just so you know. They aren't there
at all.
At all. The closest you'll get to a barbarian living in tribes is nobody. There's nobody on there.
Anti-Oedipus has a series of chapters where they make this, and they're deeply French, sardonic, sarcastic assholes when they do this, but they talk about the prehistory and the movement to the civilized man, and they're being very particular with the language of it because it's what we term them as. It's intended as part of a universal history and an understanding that we're looking at it from the position of capital, from the belief of being civilized. And that thing that they're doing is commentary in and of itself. To just say that this starts at the barbarian, and it's like, what does that mean? What does barbarian mean, my friend? Like that, saying these things because he read them in this fucking guy Eliot's book. It's like, do you know what this means? This means
you're crackling really loudly, by the way.
Shit.
How have you still not figured out your expensive microphone?
It has nothing to do with my expensive microphone. There's an issue with, for some reason, memory and the buffer settings not being enough, and I don't know why. So it's not anything with the microphone.
It from the Harvard Classics.
Well, apparently the ASMR heads in chat like it, so just leave it for now.
Hoping we can get a
So
better
this works fine.
understanding of the
Exactly.
Now it's
ideas
fixed, right?
and the thoughts of the people who
I couldn't tell. He was talking.
Was it fixed?
I don't know. It seems to be fine. Did you kick your cord a little bit?
No, I just reset the buffer and it just pops it back in place. And
Oh,
it's
well,
very
there you go.
frustrating.
Jorg, thanks for the 4.9. Oh wait, I missed some super chats. My apologies. Robert sold the television for the £5. Do either of you have any lecturers whose style you admire, or series of lectures you like because of the actual presentation whose content isn't shit? Actually, I do. Susan A. Gregory Sadler's okay. He's kind of a grumpy dick, but he's okay.
He's a grumpy fuck for sure, but his lectures are good.
His lectures are very good, but he hates me.
He blocked me too because of you.
You know why Gregory Sadler blocked us? I complimented his casserole on Twitter in the wrong way.
And then later I said, "Hey, Sadler," and I know Sadler. We've done
Not anymore. You
rooms
don't.
and no, not anymore. And I went, "Hey, you should unblock Sunday is not bad." So he blocked me.
The sensitive artiste, okay?
Apparently.
Who's that guy with the southern drawl who does those Deleuze talks? He's all right. You know who I'm talking about?
No.
Hang on. Come on, you gotta know.
No, there's Dave Harris is a guy who does the Deleuze for the Desperate, which is a solid general sort of semi-lecture of Deleuze. Deleuze's lectures are on Purdue's website, and Daniel Smith and his team have been working on translating them, and it's exceptional. Deleuze's lectures are very good.
Michael Sugar has got some good stuff.
I'd have to
That's
go
old
back
though.
through.
I think he's dead. That's really old. He's got a bunch of lectures on YouTube though, and they seem fine. Like he's got stuff on Bergson, he's got stuff on Hegel, and it's pretty solid. It's not dumbed down. There's not a lot of good public lectures on this stuff because the buy-in's very high. So people either are very rare who are capable of talking about it, or they're bullshitting, and most of them are bullshitting. So
yeah, if the videos of a dude in a room talking, it tends to end up, even if it's someone who's good. There was what's his name? The guy out of Hong Kong. He had a handful of bits where he took down Philosophy Tube's terrible Kant takes.
Oh,
he ended up
Carefree Wandering.
Carefree Wandering was good for a while.
He wasn't in Hong Kong. I thought he was in somewhere else. I don't think he was in Hong Kong.
Oh, I thought he was in Hong Kong or China. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. He was good. But then he kind of also went it was different, I will say.
Wow, just Hong Kong,
got
China.
different.
You're like that guy with the red glasses in Civil War. I didn't realize you were so racist.
Hong Kong's part of China.
I thought it was until very recently a government governed separately. Define part of China. I don't consider China to be an entity in the same way I don't consider America to be an entity in that way.
Fine, sure, whatever.
Okay.
I mean, I've been there, and it's pretty Chinese and also pretty British, so I guess it's British.
Well, that's exceptionally racist of you. Wow, did it
Yep.
just look Chinese? Do all Chinese places look the same to you? Fuck, no, I did it. Jorg, thanks
yeah,
for the.
he became a Russian apologist. That was the thing that annoyed. And then and now used to be
That's
really
the
good,
thing that
and then
annoyed you? They became a Russian apologist? I thought it was the trans super soldiers one. That bothered me.
That was he went shit overall. Like it was just all around the same time, I guess.
Even his philosophy tube stuff is kind of garbage, actually.
It's okay. It's not bad. Like
It was
again,
pretty
we're
bad.
we were
Well,
asked what's not bad. I've recommended it.
yeah, like when he first started, but that's when it was
Sure.
like, okay. Anyways, moving on. Jorg445, thanks for the $4.99. Favorite 3 novels. I'm going to go first, and you can go, okay?
Todd May.
What?
Is
Is that a book?
No, lecturer. Sorry, I'll shut up. Please go. You were doing your super chats.
Who's Todd? Oh, he's the bald guy, right?
Todd May is a bald guy. Todd May is not bad. Not great, but not bad.
That's just if he sees this, he's going to be actually wounded by that statement.
Really?
He's not bad. He's not good, but he's not. That is a cutting insult. That's worse than just saying he's bad.
No, he's
Bad. No. Bad as you.
He's solid.
Bad
The-
as you
the Todd I was-
vehemently disagree with him. Not good, but not bad is. He's all right. He doesn't know anything. He's kind of
Yes.
useless, but he's all right.
No, it's dry and it's solid. It's fine. The Todd I was thinking of that I got excited about is Todd McGowan. Todd McGowan has a whole bunch of really fantastic
A better
talks
Todd.
and things to go through. He's I think he's a better Todd. I like
Better
his
Todd.
ride. I like his videos a lot better,
I'm sorry, Professor May. My apologies.
and I like his books. They're fantastic.
Okay, favorite novels. For me, Moby Dick. And I have trouble after that. Trying to think of something that's not babyish, but I like Once and Future King. I hate answering that question because I'm reading new stuff and it's getting usurped, but I'm really enjoying In Search of Lost Time.
Oh my God, it's so good. Swan's Way alone is so good.
I'm gonna have to say it's like something by Sod in a couple of years, and I'm gonna just lose all my audience. How about you?
No, you won't like Sod like that. Sod's very.
I probably
interesting, but
won't.
He's not that good.
Yeah, probably won't. Although people make a lot of good use of Sod, in interesting ways.
Yes.
It seems to be more like what it is. It's not for enjoyment. It's like there's interesting stuff cooking in there.
Yes.
Okay, what are your 3
Yes.
favorite novels? You have to pick
favorite
3.
novels. All right, Desert Island novels. Let's give it a shot. Ishmael, because I could read that book quite a bit and come back to it a few times.
I actually had that
would
read
say
to me in
Dune.
high school.
I would say Dune is up there, even though it's sci-fi. I actually consider it to be really fantastically insightful and really useful to sort of revisit.
No,
and-
the rule is if it involves any futuristic technology at all, then it's not literature anymore, okay? Jules Verne is right out.
What?
Making a joke.
Oh, that's terrible.
Well, why
Um,
would Dune not be considered literature? Because it's got spaceships in it.
It is literature, though.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, what would be a third? The Vor, but that's fantasy, but that's up there.
Brooks fantasizes about Vor. You heard it here first. Okay.
Yeah, Dahlgren would probably be in there. Like, here's the thing. Like, the tough part is, like, obviously, In Search of Lost Time would be probably top of the list, but it doesn't work as a single novel. It's
Yeah.
really multiple, and so saying one is tough for me. Like, that's great. I would say I've recently reread Friday, which is a sort of send up by one of a friend of Deleuze, actually, of Robinson Crusoe. And it's it's great. It's way more in depth and interesting than I remembered it being when I first read it when we were doing our Logic of Sense reading.
There's a new there's a new translation.
I'm making my
of,
way through Solenoid right now,
Oh, yeah.
which is fucking like I'm starting to read a lot more surreal, odd shit, and it's very
You're
good.
just starting, huh?
I'm starting more. Most of it has been garbage for a very long time. You get like stuff like I don't know, like I don't even want to mention. I hate like surreal stuff that's written for being surreal or being edgy. Like John Dies at the End is a cute book, but everyone
Well, what's
loved
worse
it.
too is like a lot of that stuff. Dune's actually kind of a weird example of this. A lot of that stuff is being reintroduced to audiences now in a sanitized form that is made to be real and edgy, where the weird and edgy, where the weird and edginess part takes over the actual stuff that it was weird and edgy for.
Yeah.
Which I think actually Dune is probably a good example of this. Like the new Dunes are incredibly sterile because it's just, what is it about? It's about space Muslims fighting against space imperialists, and that's it. And is he gonna do the bad thing for a good cause? That's the conflict.
Kafka would be in there, but I'm not sure which ones I would pick. Like the challenge with
Kafka's
picking
short
top
stories. I don't think
three-
that counts. Did Kafka even write full-length novels? I think The Castle's kind of long.
Kafka wrote some bigger stuff.
Did he? Because like you can buy a complete fictions one, and I think that's like under 1,000 pages.
Oh yeah, but so then what the fuck is a novel? Like 200 pages doesn't count anymore?
Look, you know how Klosowski's Living Currency, which is 30 pages long, was published as a book? Yeah, that doesn't count. Okay, it needs to be.
That's fine, but the
to be
castle is like a solid fucking book.
Yeah. Well, how long is it though?
Let me grab it.
It's like
The
it's
castle.
like 100, right? 352 pages. Yes, that's a novel.
Yeah, that's a book. So it's
Yeah.
300. Yes, 320. Mine is 328 pages.
But like it's arbitrary, but it's like a type of product, right? So like we were talking about a novel, you're talking about here is a brick that I carry that has a single story in it. That's a novel. That's what I'd say. Like none of these terms mean anything specific. It's just like that's kind of what you have in mind because we have like terms like novella or short story. Novella is like we can still charge you $10 for it here. Charge you $30 now for it actually. That
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged is not a novel. Atlas Shrugged is a torture device.
Nabokov. I got to tell you, I could pick out so many books that
Tyler's
like, I
watching.
would
Don't
love to
recommend
come
Nabokov.
across. I know he's just writing is phenomenal and poignant and pointed and damaging and difficult, and it's wonderful.
And referenced in Blade Runner for some reason. I don't know why on earth the guy who thought that we shouldn't have any kind of memorable speeches or dialogue in them thought it was really important to have everybody reading Pale Fire.
Well, I mean, I love Pale Fire a lot.
I'm not criticizing the presence of Pale Fire in the movie. I'm just perplexed as to why Villeneuve thought that was saying something, because you look at his take on Dune, I don't think he was...
It's the same as what was the book in Lost that they were all reading?
There were a lot of books in Lost.
No, there was one specific book that
shit. Hang on, I know what you're talking about. Books from Lost. That would be, you know what? As much as I'm not like big on like big like reading lists like this thing kind of thing, going through the books from Lost would be fun. Give me a sec. Was which season? Because they read everything in that.
There is. There's a huge amount. There's just like
The Third
there's
Policeman.
references to
You're
everything.
thinking of The
It's-
Third Policeman.
I'm not thinking of The Third Policeman.
Wait, really?
No.
Watership
One
Down?
sec.
Valus?
No. It's a book no one's read.
No one's read The Third Policeman.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's true. Almost nobody's read The Third Policeman. Mice and Men?
I'll think of it.
No, I've got the list right here of every single one. I know that Sawyer was reading The Fountainhead on the beach, because that's why I read The Fountainhead.
Not Sawyer specifically. I'm talking about was it
Brothers
Jacob?
Karamazov?
Jacob was reading.
Jacob was reading...
Why do I remember that name? Why is that a name I remember? What the fuck, Brooks?
Everything That Rises.
No. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. That was a weird inclusion. Books on... See, that's stuff that I like stuff like that. Like, I like references to obscure, like, just to be clear, I was making a joke about it, but I like references like that as opposed to like these like Western classics collections approaches, because it actually encourages people to be enchanted by a thing, to actually just go and explore it for the sheer interest. And even if they're not like prepared for it, I feel like that probably has a lot of positive impacts.
Flannery O'Connor, Everything That Rises Must Converge. That's the one I'm thinking of. Everything That Rises Must Converge. Phenomenal book.
Okay.
Phenomenal book.
A lot of Alice in Wonderland, obviously.
Obviously. I really, I mean, it's responsible for,
wait, is that also Flann O'Brien?
Flannery O'Connor.
Oh, Flannery O'Connor. Okay. That button doesn't even
phenomenal.
work.
I wasn't aware of Flannery O'Connor prior to that. So, and granted, it's primarily the work I think most people know, but like she's become more known because of that, and it's been a push. It's good stuff.
All right, very quickly going through Super Chats before we get to the end of this. And some new thanks to the $5 US. This at bottom is just white supremacy through worship of the written word. I somewhat agree with you. Wig, thanks to the 50 gifted memberships. Very much appreciated. Extremely generous. And Rothrick, thank you for the €10. It's difficult to access, but if you can, read some of Kafka's case writings as a civil servant. It reads exactly like his novels, really influenced my perception on his writings. That's interesting. And Smith Black, thanks to the 5.
And it's, just to add to that, it really does change how you sort of read his books, because it's almost like he's writing about bureaucracy, and which is his thing, granted, but like literally about it, and you start to see a lot more of that connection. That's fantastic, actually. And they're on Z Library, I'm pretty sure.
Everything's on Z Library. And Smith Black, thanks to the $5 US. Nabokov's best take was that the Dr. Zhivago book sucked theory. Did it?
Yay.
All right, let's finish this.
Came before us, so we can use those thoughts and ideas to help better understand who we are. I personally want to broaden my reading and comprehension skills, and I want to dive deeper into my own mind and use this knowledge to help sort out things that I'm still kind of unclear of as far as spiritually and, mentally.
Oh, that makes me feel bad. I hate that so much. Okay, what if who you are right now, though, is has this common origin with the temperament that made them pick out those particular books? Oh, because if that's the case, then you're not actually introspecting at all. You're just piling on.
I've spent so much time on devices in the past decade, and I think this probably goes for most people, that my attention span and ability to focus has really been affected. And I've noticed that it's not even just the younger generation anymore. If I go to a restaurant, it's the older people nowadays too. Everybody's on that phone. They're so locked into that screen. It doesn't matter about age anymore. It's everybody, it seems like. I feel my attention span's been really shortened by it, and I want to use this series as a way to dive back into one topic for a prolonged period of time and just really focus on it. Get that deep focus back. Get off the device a little bit more. I don't want to read these on a device. I don't want to read them on Audible. I want to read them.
It's fine to read stuff on a screen. Don't listen to this. This is silly. I like reading hardcovers because, or not hardcover. I like reading solid copies because I annotate. But there's nothing wrong with reading a PDF at all.
Actually, just to sort of, there is, but it's very particular. Studies have shown that people who read electronically have a harder time understanding or recalling the order of events or the distance with which.
Yeah, but
events
that's why
happen.
I annotate specifically, so it's a tactile association with what I'm writing down. I'll typically summarize
Right.
stuff in the margins, but you can do that
Sure,
with
but-
notes. Like the medium isn't the issue. The issue is that people are just kind of scrolling through a document and not paying attention.
But correct.
Yeah.
But that's the issue is the medium.
Yeah,
Then, like, you can fix things, but it is a
True.
sort of reality of, as people make their way through a book, they're able to understand beginning, middle, end just by the physicality of it, versus a PDF can be any page at any point, and you can't really.
but I'm going to
Doesn't
give you a counterexample to hammer home my point, which is that Karl Popper was a professor who did not have access to PDFs, who absolutely managed to read a ton of stuff very badly either way. So I think the issue here is fundamentally to do with discipline and understanding how like studying actually works. Then
It's about the discipline of, well, again, and this gets to
Yeah.
the big issue with these books is understanding how to read, and not just like literal literacy, but
Yeah.
like that next step of like how to take things in, how to understand how things relate, what they're talking about, all of that stuff. This is the deal. And it's the same thing. Like it doesn't matter. Literally, if you're able to take in information, it's better than doing nothing. Like any criticism, I think even you and I, go read these books, go buy them.
No.
Who gives a
I look,
shit?
I'm 100% with you on this. Just the reason why I'm so strongly resisting this is because something else happens, which is, the object of the book itself as a luxury ends up overtaking any actual attempt to actually understand the stuff, and so people will literally not read stuff, waiting to get a high quality copy, and they'll move on to the next thing in the meantime, and they'll just never read it, or they'll rush through it, or they'll read it as a part of a performance to justify just having read it as a kind of ornament. And I don't know, I feel like that's more dangerous overall than somebody like skimming something accidentally or losing focus.
Yeah.
Because like there's ignorance is fine by comparison to like fake knowledge. I'd much rather a whole lot of people just not bother than to do it really badly. Because I think mostly anybody can do like 90% of this with a lot of work, but that's the catch. And if you're not going to do a lot of work, but you're still going to try to like make this a part of your personality and try to profit from it, especially, or try to like convince other people for your own benefit that you understand this stuff, like that's a detriment. That's now like convincing a whole lot of people that your shorthand misrepresentation of something is licensed to just not look at it themselves. You're destroying philosophy that way.
Yes.
Physically highlight, mark up, do whatever.
Also, this hurts me so much. Look, you got those nice wide margins to write your notes in. Why are you underlining until she is led to believe that the truth only exists in the bodily form? Wait, who is this? But the soul which has been polluted and is impure at the time of her departure and is the companion and servant of the body always and is in love with and fascinated by the body.
This is Plato. It's Plato.
And by the desires and pleasures of the body until she is led to believe that the truth only exists in the bodily form.
This is Plato. It's Phaedrus.
Is it? Yes,
Yeah,
said.
Phaedo.
Yes, said. Thebes? I can't read that beyond a doubt. Yeah, okay. It's weird because usually they have the decency to put the names behind the different dialogue bits, but whatever.
you need to do. So in short, I want to kind of use these books as a way to rewire my mind. I hope these books allow us to understand our culture from a better perspective. And that's my main focus for diving down these Harvard Classic sets. So what can you expect from this series? My plan is to upload a video on each book in the Harvard Classic series. So Volume 1 has three main books. It's Franklin's autobiography, Woman,
Can we
his
actually
journal,
take a
and
second?
Yeah.
Can we go back to that? Because I actually think this is, to make the point really fine, the passage from Plato and what he took from it, I think, is the point. Because this is the challenge of reading these things as they're translated and how they're translated. Plato isn't really here talking about, and again, people can correct me on this, I'm not Mr. Plato, but he's not really talking about the soul versus the body in the Christian sense.
No.
Right?
He doesn't have a concept of that.
No, but they use the word soul often in
Yeah.
translations, but it's spirit, more or less. The thing he's playing with is that thisness that makes Brooks or whoever else, someone themselves, the way that it's talked about, but he took it as soul versus body. And
Well, it would be suke. Spiritus is Latin, right? I'm trying to think of what the translation would actually be here, because I don't think they would say that, would they? They might. I don't know. I don't speak Greek, but
I don't know. But again, the thing to take away, and the tough part of this is, it's very easy if someone were to read this to go, oh fuck, Plato's talking about the soul being polluted, and this thing, and
Right.
the corporeal as being the opposite. And if you're coming at it from, and as he said, as the South, there's no way you don't come away from it with a very specific understanding what soul versus body means, which is not really what Plato's getting at here, because that's not really what he was talking about, right?
well, a great
Am I wrong on this?
Well, no, not at all. The example I would have used would have been Aristotle's De Anima, which is often translated on the soul. And if you go into that thinking that you're reading about a little ghost person that in some way interacts with your fleshly corporeal person, you're going to be very confused, because he's talking about the principle of literally the animation of a physical body. He's not talking about, in more modern terms, I talk about the organization of an animal body, but he's not at all talking about is there some kind of program that the hardware of your body runs, which is sort of that notion.
Well, and it's if this is what you're talking about, soul versus body, which I'm not sure I would pull from this, but as I understand this passage and how people have explained it to me and how I've read it, is that at this point we're talking about how the practice of philosophy, in what Plato's putting forward here, is ultimately the cultivation of one's independence from the concerns of the body, the separation of those things, that it's about death, I think, is actually how he talks about a practice of death in some way. I'm trying to remember this. It's been a while since I read Plato, but again, it doesn't matter. We can have an interesting discussion. But if this is how you take away from this, that it's soul versus body is what Plato's getting at.
Oh, the note here,
you're missing the point. And it's not his fault.
Well, it's even when in Republic, he'll talk about the tripartite soul, right? But it's not the tripartite soul as we understand it. What he's talking about is that these are three different forces that comprise a human. You have appetitive, you have reasoning, and so on and so forth. There's a third one somewhere. I forget what that is. I think it's the would it be the digestive or whatever? I can't remember. But he's not there talking about here are three different ghosts that inhabit you. He's talking about, you take the human as a unity. What are the different things that cause it to move in different ways? How do they interact with each other? How do they impose themselves on each other? This is something that's basically going to be carried forward even into people who are completely materialists, like Nietzsche and whatnot. This is not this is not germane to a discussion of quote unquote soul and body, because soul is not disconnected from body in this sense. There's not an idea of there being a domain of souls in the first place. Your identity and the sort of the reason that governs it is top down from some higher order, but it's not a separate order. It literally is just a higher part of existence, just the root of existence by itself. There isn't a separate people talk about the realm of forms. There isn't like a floating like space where forms are sitting. That's not how that works.
Oh, and actually, just on that, I'm going to
Yeah.
just give, and I'll use myself as an example for this one. When in high school, we had a philosophy course. It's the first time I was introduced to Plato like properly by a teacher who actually had a background in it. And when they started teaching, and we got to Plato, and they started explaining the realm of forms and blah blah blah, that's literally how I took it. I was 18. Like, I'm sorry, I'm stupider than other people, but like literally how I took it
I
was
forgive
what he
you.
believed in, like a heaven. Like it was stupid, but it was because that's what I have to work with at the time. When people come to these texts, you work with how you make sense of the things in it. And the teacher had to spend a great deal of time with me going, no, he doesn't mean that like there's this like special dimension where one of everything is kept, which is kind of what I thought it meant. But instead, something far more complex. And even in this paragraph or this section of Phaedrus, Plato is so complicated. And I say this as someone who's like, my world of Deleuze is kind of hypercritical of everything that is representation in Plato. It's incredibly diverse and interesting and complicated. And there's no way to come away with a true understanding of Plato, in my opinion.
It's also like crucial, by the way, like,
that.
well, even critics of Plato, and this is what bugs me about people who talk about like postmoderns, quote unquote, or modern philosophers as being irreverent or disrespectful of like past cultural or intellectual achievements, because they're really not. Even in like viciously criticizing Plato, people like Nietzsche and onward are actually doing him a tremendous amount of respect by taking him really seriously. They spent a lot of time studying Plato to get to their positions on Plato. They weren't just like, oh, idealism, well, that's gay.
It's interesting,
Yeah.
but again, it's certainly not soul versus body.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge with coming to the books like this, because he's going to read this, and then when he's going to get further
He's
down,
gonna read this, and he's gonna go, so that's how Christianity makes sense. And it's like, you can reach that point, like people have. There are Rene Girards out there. That's a thing, but not like that. That's not it. Anyways,
Woolman, his journal, and then pens kind of like proverb type writing. So we're going to dive into those. And then
why are you starting with Benjamin Franklin's autobiography? Why would you start there? Like that's so weird. Like,
it's hyper normative.
Yeah, but in an almost parodic way. Like,
Yes, actually.
Like this is like, well, we need to teach, like, imagine, if you will, just as a hypothetical. We want Canadians to have a thorough education in the classics, starting, of course, with Jean Chrétien's autobiography. It's kind of silly, but that's the level you're operating at here. This is just some guy. Benjamin Franklin was a very sophisticated and learned man of great historical importance. He does not belong on a shelf with Plato. Certainly not on that like or whatever. Like these are not the same types of things. They're not related to each other in that way. Which is not saying like you shouldn't study that or whatever, but it's like this is being sold to people for a hefty fee. People who really can't afford that hefty fee, as like, no, this is how you actually learn. This is how you actually become conversant with like the highest quality of thought in the world. It's like a lot of that stuff's really good to read, but no, that perfume won't make you that sexy. That cigarette will not make you look like, what's his name? My brain's not working again. Feeling Lucky Punk. Help. Before I quote something racist
from
by
Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro.
Feeling Lucky Punk, Taxi Driver, Robert De Niro.
Wait, no. Sorry, I watched Taxi Driver last night.
Lucky Punk,
You're talking about
Taxi Driver,
Dirty
Robert
Harry.
De Niro.
Dirty Harry. Sorry, I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying.
Move on to the
Sorry,
next
I
one.
didn't-
I'll go
I'm
through the
sorry.
entire series like that. If the reading material is very short, I'll probably combine it into one video, just depending on how long it makes the content. My goal is really not to make these videos a complete comprehensive guide of, each book. I think you should read the book if you want that. But I want to dive into the main topics of the book, of the individual books. I want to dive into how they're applicable today, the lessons I've kind of taken away from it, and go into passages that really kind of stuck out and things that really I think are valid, today even. I'm not a scholar or a philosopher or anything like that, and I do not claim to be. I want this series to be a place where we can share ideas, go down in the comments, discuss things, really dive into what the meaning of different things are. So I want it to
Now,
be...
to be clear, just to reiterate, I didn't hate this guy until I saw this thumbnail, because this is not the attitude of someone who's like, I'm not an expert, guys. I'm not a philosopher.
Yep.
I just want to exchange ideas. The death of our education system. Really? Really? Okay. Good. That sounds like an authoritative statement to me. I'm sorry.
Very interactive. I'm going to be down there in the comments too. I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to challenge, push back, add dialogue, whatever you
Okay, so we can't complain now about our coverage. There you go.
think. With that being said, thank you so much for watching this video.
You're welcome. I don't hate this guy. I'm sure he's fine. I just find this really... I hate this attitude. I hate this attitude to education generally. I think it's cancerous. Genuinely cancerous. I think it metastasizes like a cancer. I think it's really bad. That thumbnail is a guy high on his own supply. Yep, I think that's a good way to put it. I think that's a good way to put it. Like, I don't know. YouTube does not reward people for having like basic intellectual humility. You actually are rewarded for being very, very arrogant about what you do and don't know, because that lets you really commit to an aesthetic and to a project. And actually growing as you read stuff doesn't help with that, because you tend to abandon old positions, which means that there are breaks in what you're producing. So this poor bastard is now cursed to read through 50 volumes of something that was assembled for reasons he doesn't understand, and to sell Harvard classics to other people as a thing that they will put on their shelf and never touch, which is unfortunate. Evil Morty, thanks for the 10 US dollars. Sunday is Rud maxing in his bathrobe. Cardigan. This is a cardigan. I don't wear bathrobes. How dare you?
It does look like a bathrobe. I mean, it's the color, it's the lighting more than anything, because I can see that it's a cardigan, but it does have an edge. Sorry.
The stream is over. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean. God damn it. I feel bad now.
As well you should.
Are we
I'll be
off?
live again later tonight. Bye.